Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. This is the reviewer Asma Aldhaibani. Today and in this video, I'll be reviewing the course CSCI 211 Object Oriented Programming. Let's see our table of content. So, the first chapter is basically the introduction to object oriented concepts, and also in this chapter, we will not deal with any code. But in the second chapter, we will start our first Java code, and we will also see the identifiers, assignments, data types, and operations. After that, the selections, strings, and loops, then methods, objects and classes, and finally the access modifiers. Before starting our first chapter, we need to know what is the difference between the procedural and object oriented programming. So, procedural programming is basically lines of codes. Each line has a process to do, and the compiler, after finishing this line, it will go to the one after it, and so on. While object oriented is basically transforming every thing in the real world into an object in the software. Now we'll start our first chapter, Introduction to Object Oriented Programming. So, paradigm is a way of seeing and doing things. Object oriented programming is organizing software as a collection of objects with a certain state and behavior. So, basically, the objects are as I said, things in the real world, and as we said, that everything in the real world is presented as an object in the software, and this object have methods or functions or let's say goals to do, and then it have also attributes or it have properties also. So it's basically is a collection of data and behavior. Object oriented design is based on the identification and organization of objects. Object oriented modeling and design, modeling objects based on the real world, using models to design independently of a programming language. So, basically, why I am using object oriented programming, because I want to transform everything from the real world into the software. Uh, Now, let's see what are the objects. The term object means a combination of data and logic representing some real world entity. In an object oriented system, everything is an object. So, as I said before, so the object is basically a combination between data of data. The data also is called attributes. We will need to be more used to with the word attribute, and also with methods, objects, and classes. All of these words are important in our course. So it's a combination of attributes or data and logic or methods. And this object is basically representing a real world entity. In an object oriented system, everything is an object, as we said. Attributes, what are the attributes? And associated values are hidden inside the object. So, as we said, object is basically a combination of data and methods, and these attributes are inside the object, they are kind of hidden. Okay, so any object that wants to obtain or change a value associated with other object must do so by sending a message to one of the objects invoking a method. So also in the real world, we are let's say interacting with each other and interacting with other objects in the real world. Also for the object oriented programming, the objects are interacting together by invoking methods. Now, classes. What are the classes? So classes are templates with methods, attribute names, and type information, but no actual values. So let me make it more easier. So as we said, we are using objects to represent the entities in the real world. What about the classes? What are the classes, and how they are helping me in this mission? So classes basically are grouping for me all the objects that have kind of the same attributes or the same methods. Um, so instead of writing the code for every object, I can just group all of them under one class, and then and of course this class will not have actual values or actual implementation for the methods. Each object will have its own values. Example, the car is not available, but Ford or Ferrari is known. Here, the car is the class, while Ford is the object. So, classes are there to instantiate an object from them. These classes generate objects and they contain values. We design an application at the class level. Thus, the common things between the objects are created at the class level to skip doing the same things again for each object, as I said before. When the system is running, objects are created by classes as they are needed to contain state information. So this is how the classes looks like. So they have a hierarchies and inheritance shape. And here in this picture, the shape is the superclass, or let's say the class, and we have as an object. We have the circle, we have triangle, we have rectangle. So we know now that there's a class called shape, and it is grouping all of these let's say objects that have shared things between them, methods or attributes, and this is helping me to not um, redo the code again and again. Thus, as I said before, every object has its own methods and its own attributes, and the object's methods are let's say responsible for managing its attributes, and this is known as hiding. So for an object to learn about the attributes of another object, they need to invoke the method associated to the other object. So let's say we have a class called lady. Then an example for the attributes that this class will have are like the age, the salary, and so on. And for the methods, we can say get age and set salary. And as you can see also, these methods are dealing with the attributes or the attributes or properties of this class. So get age is only dealing with the age attribute, and also set salary is managing the salary attribute. So now let's talk about the four pillars of object-oriented programming. First, we will start with the abstraction. So what is abstraction? It's basically displaying only the essential information and hiding the details. And let's take an example of a man driving a car. So in this example, the man is the user and the car is the system. So the user is able to deal with the system, with this complex system, because this user is only seeing the essential information. He's not dealing with every detail or every implementation inside the system. So the user doesn't need to see everything, doesn't need to see all the implementation. The user needs to see the interface as easy as possible, because this will make it easy for them to use the system and deal with it. Now let's talk about encapsulation. So as you can see in this picture, this is our class and this is the capsule, and we can see that it is encapsulating everything inside it, the variables and the methods. So basically the class is encapsulating the variables and the methods, or the properties and the methods, inside an object. So encapsulation, by definition, is the principle of concealing the internal data and procedures of an object and providing an interface to each object in such a way as to reveal as little as possible about the inner workings. So we have three states or three modifiers. The first one is the public, and it's basically letting the members be accessed from anywhere. And private, it's letting the variables to be accessed only from within a class. So let's say that I have a method from outside the class. So this method cannot access the variables of the private class, let's say, or private data inside the class. And protected members can be accessed only from subclass. So let's say that I have a superclass, and let's say it has three subclasses. So these three subclasses can enter the variables, or let's say access anything inside the superclass if it's protected. So we can talk now about the third pillar, which is inheritance, and this pillar is only for the classes. So remember when we saw that picture at the first of the presentation, it was just explaining how the classes might look. And we know now that the classes can have the hierarchies form, and it is basically when there is a superclass, and this superclass can have subclasses, and these subclasses also can have other subclasses, and so on. So an object-oriented system organizes classes into subclass, superclass, hierarchy. At the top of the class hierarchy are the most general classes, and at the bottom are the most specific. A subclass inherits all of the properties and methods defined in its superclass. A class may be the subclass to some class, and a superclass to another class or classes. So basically, if I have a superclass, and this superclass have some properties and methods, so all the its subclasses will inherit these properties and methods. And also sometimes, and we will see that in the polymorphism, these subclasses can provide the implementation for the methods that are inside the superclass. So yes. So now let's talk about the fourth pillar, which is the polymorphism. So it means objects that can take on or assume many different forms. The same operation may behave differently on different classes, allows us to write generic, reusable code more easily. So we have two parts, or let's say, two parts for the polymorphism. We have overloading and overriding. So the polymorphism overloading is basically when I have a method inside a class, and this method is actually not duplicated, but I have many other methods that have the same name of it. Let's say I have a method called getArea, and I have another method also named by getArea, and I have third one which is also getArea. So all of these methods, you might say that this is might give us an error, but actually it will not if we take in consideration to make the parameters different. The number of them, or let's say the type of them, the data type of them, so that will not give me an error. So this is called basically the overloading. So as I said, when I have many methods inside one class with the same name but different parameters, maybe the number of the parameters are different, maybe the data type of them is different. So here, as you can see in this picture, we have a method called method, and the first one inside it there is the only one parameter. The second have two parameters. The third have three parameters. And also we can have, like, let's say two methods with the same name, but let's say, and both of them have the same number of parameters, but these parameters have different data types. So this is overloading. Now let's see what is overriding. So overriding is an object-oriented programming feature that enables a child class to provide different implementations for a method that is already defined and or implemented in its parent class or one of its parent classes. The overridden method in the child class should have the same name, signature, and parameters as the one in its parent class. So this is how we can differ between the overriding and overloading. In overriding, the relationship is basically between the superclass and subclass. So the subclass can provide another implementation for the same method that is defined in the superclass. So this is called overriding. And in this let's say in this situation, the overridden method needs to have the same name as the one in the superclass, also the same signature and the same number of parameters, or the same data type of the parameters of the let's say the method in that superclass. So it cannot be different as the overloading. Remember, overloading many methods in the same class. And they have different number of parameters, maybe different data type of parameters, but in the overriding, we have the method implemented in the subclass, and we need to have the same name, the same signature, and the number or data type of parameters in the one as the one in the superclass. So as you can see in this picture, this is an example of a superclass called shape, and we have subclasses like, for example, the hexagon class, circle class, square classes. So all of these are subclasses, and the superclass is the shape. And as you can see here, the method we are talking about is draw, and as you can see, there is no parameters, so I can give the other subclasses the ability to deal with it. For example, if I put x and y, then maybe this is not gonna work for the circle subclass, because when we let's say this method is not draw, is, for example, get area. So as you know, the area calculation is different from one shape to another. So this is gonna give me, let's say, it will not be flexible to deal with. So basically, I'm not gonna, most of the time, not gonna provide parameters inside these methods, because I'm gonna already, let's say, edit them inside the subclasses. So this is gonna give me more flexibility. So yes. Now let's start our next chapter, which is identifiers, assignments, data types, and operations. And in this chapter, as we said, we will start our first Java code. So, but before coding Java, we need to know some points. So each class has a name. This is important thing. Each class in Java needs to have a name, and we have also the main class. Remember, in C++, we had like the main function, and in Java we will have the main function and main class. By convention, class names start with an uppercase letter. So in Java, it is a case-sensitive language, so we need to be careful with dealing with letters and characters in Java. So classes needs to have an uppercase letter, okay, at the start of it. And then the program is executed from the main method, as we know. A class may contain several methods. Okay, the main method is the entry point where the program begins execution. So, as we know also from C++, and almost all other languages, the main function is the entry point, and the program will start from it. So we need to put that in mind. Now we will start learning how to write or how to print a certain string or a certain sentence for the user. So we need first to know how to use Eclipse. So I'm using Eclipse. You can use any other compiler you need, but for me, Eclipse is the best one. You can also use online compilers. There's Programmese, so it is also good alternative. Then I'll need to name the project. So let's say first, okay. And then this is important. We need to highlight this one. So use project folder as root for sources and class files. Okay, next. Okay, now we will create a class. So we need to put in consideration that the name of the folder or the file needs to be the same name as the class. So the name here of the file is first Java project. I will copy it and name the class same name. So as you can see, we have here our main function, public static void main, and we have here our main class, okay, which is as you can see, or as you can notice, that its name is the same name as the file name, and this is so important. We cannot have the main class to have like different name than the file name. So basically this is stating that this class is the main class and this function is the main function. Okay, so for our first code, or our first line of code, we will write it inside this main function because we said that it is the entry point for the program to start. So to print something for the user, it is system.out.println. So this is the syntax for writing something for the user. So as you can see, this println, we can have also print without ln. ln is there for creating a new line after this statement. Let me keep it with ln. So yes, system.out.println, and then we have inside these brackets these two quotation marks. So if I want to print a string, then I need these two. But if I want to print something else, like for example, let's say I want to get the result of 1 plus 2, then as you can see, we got 3. So, but if we said quotation marks and then inside them we have 1 plus 2, then this is counts as a string. It's not let's say a mathematical equation or something. So the program will print for me the anything inside these two quotation marks. So it's 1 plus 2. So as you can see, the program printed for me 1 plus 2. These two are not, let's say, it's not a mathematical thing, it's now a string. And you remember the string is basically a group of characters, digits, let's say also letters, so anything I want inside. So every time I want to print a statement or something, or any statement for the user, then I will use these two quotation marks. If I want to calculate, let's say, the addition or the subtraction of something, then I will not use them because I don't want them to be as strings. Okay. So let's say hello world. So as you can see, it printed for me hello world. Okay. So this is how we write or to print anything on the console, and this is system.out.println. Let me do it without print ln, and let's do it again and let's see what will happen. So as you can see, there's no new line created after the first hello world. We will do it again and put this time print ln, and let's see what will happen. So yes, it created a new line. And yeah, so for the second one, if I want also to create a new line after it, I need to say print ln, not print. Print will not create a new line after this string. So we have learned how to write for the user anything, or to print for the user anything. Now we will learn how to take from the user a certain input. So in this case, we need to deal with the scanner class in Java, and then create an object from it called input or anything we want. It's okay. And then we will say system.n inside the constructor of this new value. And system.n is basically telling the compiler that it's going to be an input from the keyboard. And then after that, we will need to use the methods or the functions of the scanner class. And this is to let the variable to take a certain amount of input. Like for example, if my variable is double, then I need to tell the compiler that the user needs to input a double value. So now let's see this example in Java. So first, we said we will need the scanner class, but before creating the variable we need, or the object, we need to import this class. So in Java, we say import java.util.scanner. Okay, so this is how you can import the class, and then we will say scanner. So this is the class. Now I need to create a data type, or let's say a variable. So this is the data type or the class, and I need to create the variable, which I will call it input. Okay, or we can call it also keyboard, or let's say anything we want. It's fine. Yani. And then we will say new scanner, and I'll tell the compiler that this is from the keyboard input. Then what is the variable I want? So let's say I want to calculate the area of a circle. So the only thing I will need is basically the radius. So we know that the radius can be also, double. So I will create double radius and semicolon, and then I will print for the user enter the radius. Forgot that in here. Okay. Now I will say radius equals. Now in this point, I will deal with what? I will deal with the functions and the methods from the scanner class. So I will say next dot it will be input dot next double. Okay. So input is the object, and how we can access the function or the method is by the dot operator and then next double. Okay. At this point, the user will enter the radius, and then we can calculate the area. So we will say double area equals radius multiplied by the radius again, and then multiplied by 3.14, which is the pi. And then let me print the area. Okay, and then I'll print the value of the area, not the string area. Okay, so I will remove the quotation marks. Now let's run the program. Okay, so I will enter the radius as 1. So it's 3.14. So it is right. So how we can take an input from the user is by the scanner class. So scanner input equals new scanner system in. This is a very important syntax. And even before it, we need also to import the java.util.scanner, which is the class itself. So we know now how to write a code that let the user write anything, and this will be taken as an input. So remember in our example, so to get the area of a circle, we used the radius as a double, and then we used the method from the scanner class, which is next double. Also, we have here a list that stating other methods we can also use. Next integer reads an integer value from the user. The same for all of them. We have two interesting also methods, which is next line. It reads a whole line from the user, and the next method is reading a word from the user, and so on. Okay, so let's try some of them. So I already have import java.util.scanner, and I have scanner input equals new scanner system in, and now I will make a variable. Let's say I want to make a string variable. Um, what to call it? Let's say input user. Okay, and then let me do it here. I will assign it to what? I will assign it to the input we created from the class scanner input dot. So which method I'm going to use? I'm going to use next line. Okay, why? Because I'm trying to take a whole string. So here the user will be able to write like a line. Okay, so yeah. Uh, let's say system dot out dot println, and then just to test the code, I will print input from user. Don't forget the semicolon. Okay, let's run it. So I'll write my line. Let's say then it will print first line. So whatever I write, it will print it here because I said like system.out.println input from user, which is the variable, the string variable. Of course, I can like do a small change just to make it usual. Before taking anything from the user, I will just print a message that is saying like enter something, you know. You need to remember to put the quotation mark. Enter a line. Okay, and then let's run it. Yes, that's better. And then first, so yes, it printed it for me. So now let's make this input as integer. So this is not right. I need to use the right method, which is next int, and then and here let's say input. Okay. Okay, I'll say 2. Yeah, it will print also 2. Now we will try the input to be Boolean. So Boolean, we know that it has two values, true or false. Um, so yes. So the boolean that the user will enter is true, then it will print the input from the user as it is, which is true. Now we will talk about the identifiers. So what is identifier? Identifier is the name that identify an element in the program, and this element can be a class, method, or variable. So the identifier is basically a sequence of characters, and when I'm talking about the characters, I'm not just only talking about the letters, I'm talking about digit, letters, underscore, and dollar sign. The identifier must start with a letter. It cannot start with, for example, a digit. It can start with a letter, underscore, or dollar sign, but not digit. Okay. Now let's read about the rules of the identifiers in the program or in Java. So an identifier cannot be a reserved word. So what is reserved word? So we used also to name them in C++ as keyword. For example, integer int, this is a keyword or reserved word that is already used for something else. I cannot name, for example, my variable or my method or my class as int because this is already used for something else for the data type integer. I cannot name or I cannot have an identifier with let's say double, because double, as we said, it is a keyword or a reserved word. An identifier cannot be true, false, or null. An identifier can be of any length. For example, $2, compute area, area radius, and print are legal identifiers. You can see here we started with $sign and then a digit. So this is fine. We said here, we said that an identifier must start with a letter, an underscore, or a $sign. It cannot start with a digit. So here the digit is the second letter, or the second character. And here at the start we have the $sign. Here we also have a letter at the first, here also, and here also. So all of these are legal identifiers. Now here, this is not legal identifier. This is not an identifier. Why? Because we started with a digit, and we said here we cannot start with a digit. Here also we are using a character that is not allowed to use, which is the addition sign. We said that the identifier can have a sequence of characters, which are letters, digits, underscore, and the $sign. Okay, so the Java compiler detects legal identifiers and reports syntax errors. Since Java is case sensitive, area and area with capital A and area with all capital letters are all different identifiers. Let's see this example here in Eclipse. So we said that identifier is the name of the variable, the name of the method, the name of the class. Okay, so we have here a variable which is input from user. Okay, so as you can see, my identifier here is legal, and it is fine. Why? Because I'm using at the first a letter. I'm not using a digit. Let's change it. Let's put before it, for example, underscore. Here also. So as you can see, it did not give me an error. Let's try with the $sign. It is also fine. But once I put a digit, for example, 1, and here 1, as you can see, it's not allowed. Look, it's giving me an error. It's saying that this is not legal identifier, and it's giving syntax error. Okay, so yes, now let's try to use a reserved word. So here we said let's use integer, and also here. So this is also error because this also it's syntax error because here we are not using the right identifier or the sequence of characters for the identifier. So as we said that here we need to use another name. It cannot be a reserved word or a keyword, and integer is a keyword in Java. Okay. Now we have the constant variables. So what are they and how we can use them in Java? So a constant is basically an identifier that has a permanent value and it cannot be changed in the program. So we know that the variables their values can change after the first time we assign them to a certain value, while the constant cannot change. Its value cannot change. Okay. Now we will learn how to write it in Java by using the final keyword. Now, my example says that I need to calculate the area of the circle by taking the value of the radius, the double value of the radius from the user, and I need to make the pi as a constant variable. So first, as I said, there is the final keyword that will tell the compiler that this variable is constant, okay, and it cannot be changed. So first I will write final, okay, and then so the pi is double um, variable or double data type. So double, okay, and then I will name it pi, which is equal to 3.14, and then semicolon. Okay, so this is how we write it: final, and then the data type. It can be integer, it can be anything, and then the name, the name of the variable, and then its value, and then assigning its value to it. Okay, now I will create another variable which is double area, and then it's equal to radius, and then I will print the area for the user, and let's here say enter radius. Okay, so let's say I will enter 1, 3.14. Let's put another value, 3.5. Okay, what if I try to change the pi value? Let's say pi is equal now to 3.1458 something, anything, then semicolon. It will give me what? An error. Why? Because the final local variable pi cannot be assigned. It must be blank and not using compound assignment. Why? Because it's a constant. It's using the final keyword, and it is saying basically that this variable is not ordinary variable. It is constant. Naming convention in Java. So there is one last point to remember in how to name the elements in the Java programs. So use lowercase for variables and methods. So remember, for classes, we need to capitalize the first letter of the name of the class, and for variables and methods, we will use lowercase if it's only one syllables, while if it's more than one, we need to capitalize the first letter of the second word or syllables. So yes, for operators precedence, there is a certain order we need to follow for finding the answer for any, let's say, group of operations. So we have first the parentheses, then we have the multiplication, division, and modulus, and lastly we have the addition and subtraction. So, in order to find the answer, as I said, of a certain group of operations, we need to follow this order and also to move from left to right. Like, for example, this example. First, we did the parentheses, then we did the multiplication because from left to right, this is the first multiplication. Then this is the second. Then the first addition, after we finished all the multiplication or division, it's there. Then we need to start with the addition and subtraction. Then the first addition is here, so we finished it. Then it will be between this and this, and then lastly it will be the last operation from, or the first operation from the right. Our third chapter is about selection statements and their types, and how we can use them in Java and their syntax. So, first, selection statements use conditions that are Boolean expressions. So, we know what is Boolean expression or Boolean variable. It is the expression or the variable that has only two values, either true or false. Okay, and also, as I said, it can be a variable because of the Boolean data type, and it declares a variable with the value either true or false. Now let's see the relational operators. So as you can see, I believe that you already deal with these operators in C++, and we can use them in the selection statements, and also you might also see them in the loops. So they are very important. Um, so this operator is less than. This operator is less than or equal to. This one is greater than or equal to, and not equal to. So let's have this example in order to understand what is Boolean expression. So as I said, the Boolean expression can have true or false as a value. Okay. Now let's assume the radius, as it says here, it's 5. So when I say that the radius, when it's 5, is it less than 0? Then it is false. Okay, so this is the Boolean expression, and it has the false value. All right, but for example here, or let's say here, 5, which is the radius, is greater than 0. Like, I'm asking, is it greater than 0? Then this is true. So the Boolean expression here, it is true. Okay, and so on. Now, let's see what are the selection statements. So we have several types of selection statements in Java. We have one-way if statement. We have two-way if else statement. We have nested if statement, like if statement and then inside it another if statement. Multi-way if else statements, switch statements, and conditional expressions. Okay. Before getting into the if statements or selection statements in general, we need to get used with the logical operators. So, as I said before, I believe that we already saw these things in C++ or any other language, if you know some. So, we have here the first operator is the not operator, and we saw it here. As you can see, this is not, and this is equal, so it is not equal to. All right, And this is the operator and. It's basically and these two lines are or. Okay, and I will explain them more in the coming examples, and how they are like, if you know the logical gates, and if you have an idea about it. Also, in discrete mathematics, you of course took logic, and you know how to deal with these operators, and each one of these operators job and result. Like for example, for the and operator, if I have a boolean expression, for example here, uh, I have like a boolean expression, and then I have this operator, and then I have another boolean expression. Then if this boolean expression is true and this boolean expression is true, and يعني both of them are true, then the result will be true. But if I have, for example, one of them is false, then the final, or let's say the total Boolean expression will be false. So this is from basically the logical tables. Here we have the switch statement. So this is the syntax of switch statement. It doesn't have a different idea from the if statement. It just the syntax is different. So here we have the switch keyword, and then we have the switch expression. So a switch expression is basically a variable, okay, and in this يعني, for this variable we are testing its value. Like for example, let's say I'm gonna take the switch expression as radius. Radius is a variable that has a value. For example, I will take it from the user. So let's say I want uh, to print for the user, depending on their value of the radius they entered. I want to print for them if this circle is small, or let's say large, or whatever. Then I will say switch expression is the radius, okay, and then I will test it by the cases. Okay, I have different cases here. So for example, case one, if the radius is for example 1, then print that this circle is very small circle, and then break. And then case 2, case 3, and so on, and then the default. So for the break keyword, it's very important, okay, because without it the second case will also be printed after the case 1. Okay, if it's true, if case 1 is true and I didn't put the break, then the other case will also be printed and then break. Okay, so the break is very important in the switch statement. And then we have this default keyword. So default is basically when all of these cases are not true, then do the default statement. Okay, now we have a conditional expression. So this is the syntax of it, and we have here an example. So at the first we have the boolean expression. Okay, we can also put it in parentheses, it's better. And then we have this question mark, like I'm asking, and then if this true, then do expression 1. If it's false or not true, then do expression 2. For example, I have here maximum, which is a variable that I want to assign for it a the maximum between these two, number 1 and number 2. So I have this boolean expression, and we have the question mark, and it is asking, is number 1 greater than number 2? If yes or true, if this boolean expression is true, then assign number 1 to what? To maximum, because number 1 is maximum, um, and we prove that by the boolean expression. If not, then do this, then assign number 2 to maximum. Okay, and this is going to make it easier than using if statements or switch statements. We can just only use the conditional expression, and it will be more easier. And also, as you can see, it's only one line, so this is good. Now, in order to understand the selection statements in Java, and also to know how to write them and use them in Java, we will have these two examples. So let's start by the first one. Write a Java program to get a number from the user and print whether it is positive or negative. So in this example, I will choose to deal with the if statement, if else statement, okay? And because we will need to get the number from the user, then we will use the scanner class. So first, I will import it. Okay. Then I will create an object from this class. Then I will print for the user to enter the number. Okay, and then I will create a variable. So let's make it, يعني the number that I will take it from the user, I will make it integer to make it even more easier. So integer. All right, and then I will create if else statement. So f and then num. So the number is positive when it is greater or equal to 0. Okay, and then I will print that this number is positive. Okay, and then we will have else statement. Basically it is saying that if it's not positive, then it needs to be يعني negative. Okay, now let's test it. So enter the number. um let's say 2. So it is positive. Let's try again with a negative number. So -1, negative. So it is working. Okay, question 2. Write a Java program that takes a number from the user and generates an integer between 1 and 7. It displays the weekday. Okay, so for me, I'll choose for this specific question to use switch statement. It will be easier. And I will have 7 cases and also the default. And for the switch expression, it will be the weekday variable. Okay, so I kept the java.util.scanner import. Okay, because I also need to take from the user a number, so I'll need to use the scanner class. So first thing, I will create an object from this class. Okay, then I will print for the user to enter the number. And then I will take this number. So it will be, I will create, but it needs to be also integer because, as we said, these numbers will represent the weekday. Okay, So it will be integer, of course, integer weekday. Okay, and then input dot next. We need to specify the right method, and then um, okay, at this point the program will take from the user the number or the input, and then here we will start the switch statement. So first switch keyword, and then inside this, inside the switch expression, we will write um, weekday. All right, so case and then the value. Okay, so the value is one, first one. Okay, because I need case one to check if the weekday entered by the user is one. So what it will say, it will say that this is Monday. So system dot out dot println, okay, Monday, and then we don't forget the break. Thus we finish the 7 cases. So case one is Monday, two. So 2 and 1 and 3 and 4, all of these are the values of what? Of the weekday. So if the user entered 3, then it will skip this one, and it will go to 3. All right? And then it will print Wednesday and then break. Okay? And the same for all of them. Now we still need the default. Like for example, if the user entered something out of this borders, like 8 or 9, so we don't have like um, day 9 in the week, so this is not acceptable. So we will say in the default section, enter a number from 1 to 7. Okay, I want to fix this statement. Enter a number so enter a number to print the day of the week. Okay, enter a number to print the day of the week. um let's say 3. Okay, again, let's say 1. Okay, let's make it something else. Let's say 8. Enter a number from 1 to 7. Okay, so it is working, and it is presenting the switch selection statement. Okay, so yes. In this chapter, we will get to know more about the string class and its methods and objects. So, and also how we can have an object from this class, and how we can declare it and initialize it with a value. So, first, let's talk about the character data type. So it is a data type that represent only one character. You might ask why the character data type is mentioned here in the strings chapter. So character data type is available in Java like any other languages. But the problem is with the scanner class. So scanner class doesn't have a method for the character data type. So you remember when we used to create an object, and then when we create another variable that will use this object method in order to take a specific data type from the user, like integer or double or float or any other data type. So we saw that next integer will make the user type only integers and so on. But for the character data type, we don't have the method in the scanner class. So in order to solve this problem, we need to use strings or string class and its methods. So this is the syntax of how to uh, have يعني instantiate or declare an object or a variable from string class, and this is how we can initialize it. So we have here the quotation marks, and inside these quotation marks any character will be entered, then it will be part from this string. Okay, so for example these spaces are also characters يعني, and they are counted as character in the message object. Okay, so this is the message is an object and the class is string, and this is the value of it. So we have here a couple of methods. Let's get to know them, and then we can have some examples in order to understand them and how they work. So first we have length. This method returns the number of characters in the string. Okay, then second method is character at, and then we have inside the parentheses or the parameter for this function is the index. Okay, so you remember for arrays it's the same for strings. We start with 0 index, so this w is at index 0, e index 1, and so on. So what does this method do? It returns the character in this index. For example, if I wrote character at, like let's say message dot, a dot operator is also important because we need to access this method by the object. So message dot character at index, let's say the index I will put 0, then it will print for me w. Okay, then concat s1 or any other string returns a new string that concatenates this string with string s1. Okay, this method is to uppercase and this method also is to lowercase. So if we have like a string, let's say this one, and then I use this method, it will return all the characters as uppercase. Like for example, this W is already uppercase, so it will not change anything. E will change it also to capital E, and so on. This one will do the opposite. It will return the string to return the string characters or letters into lower cases. Trim returns a new string with white space characters trimmed on both sides. So now we will learn how to read a character data type from the user. So as I said before, why it is a problem here in Java, because we said that the scanner class does not provide a method to read a one character from the user. So how we can solve this problem? Using the string concept and using the string class, also methods. We will use one method. And let's start by having an object from the scanner class, which is input. Uh, it will read from the keyboard, so it's system in. Then I will have a string called, let's say, user string. Okay, and it will be input dot next. So next we said it's a method that reads only one word. We can have also next line, but in this case I'm going to use this string only for one thing, which is taking the first character using the character at method from the string class. So I don't really need to have like a whole line. I'll just make it read only one word, and then I will take the first character. So I will create another variable that is called and also its data type is character. So I will call it, for example, user character, and then it will be what? It will be the method character at, and then we need, as you remember, here we need the index. So we said that we will take only the first character, so it will be 0. But of course, we cannot do that. Why? We need to access this method through its own يعني through the objects of the same class. So what is the object we will use? It's the user string, okay, because this method is from the string class. So user string dot, then semicolon, and then it's fine now. So here it will read from the user, but before it, let's have a let's print a message for the user that you need to enter something, or you need to enter the character. Enter a character. Okay, here they will enter the character. Here it will take only the first character. Here they will enter a string, and then it will take only the first character. And then let's say I want, just to make sure that my program is working, I will print it. So I will say print user character. Okay, now let's run it. Okay, enter a character. I will enter for example 1. Okay, it will print 1. Let's run it again and try with letters. M. Yes, it's printing M. So that's true. So I am entering one letter or one character, and the compiler will read it as what? As a word or as a string. Okay, using the next method from the scanner class. Okay, and then in order to take only one character, okay, I will use the character at and then put the index, which is 0. And this method is from the string class. And of course, I need to use the object before it, and then the dot operator, and then the method in order to be able to access it. Okay? Well, now let's try the other methods from the string class. So we've done character at index, and we used it to read a character from the user. And now let's try the other methods. So first, let me create an object which is a string called user string, and it is equal to the input dot next. This time I will use next line because I need like to be a real string. It's not just one word. I need it to be a whole line. Any group of character the user will enter from يعني any length. Okay. So I will take this from the user. It will be string, and then I want like to try or to see the other methods and to see what their outputs. So I will use the first one, which is the length. So what I will do, first we said that we need the object user string, and then dot operator, and then the method. So here it will print for me the length of the string that the user will enter. Okay, here I will use the other method. Now let me use another method. So length is done, character add is done. Concat, let me create before using it another string which is called s1, string s1, and let's say it is equal to what? It is equal to hello, for example. Okay, and then I will just replace this one with concat, and then its parameter which is s1. Okay, so the next one is, so we did concat, so we need now, let's see the to uppercase method. And after that, let's see to lower case method. Okay, and then we have the trim, so let's also do it. Okay, now we have the length, so it will print the length of the user string, and it will concat it with the string which is s1, which is hello, and it will transfer every letter in it to uppercase. Here it will do the opposite. It will transfer every letter in it in the string to a lowercase, and here it will add a white space at the beginning and white space at the end. So let's see if I am right. So what is the string we will enter? Let's say this is my string. Okay. Okay, so let's see the result. The first number, 18, it is the length. So if you get back here and counted the number of characters we have, it will be 18, even with the white spaces. So white space is also a character in the strings. This is my string hello. So it did concat the first, or the user string, okay, with the s1. Okay, so the first will be the user string, and then second it will be the s1 or any other string I want to concat it with my string. Okay, and then as you can see, this is the uppercase method. It transferred every letter in the string to uppercase or capital letters. Here the opposite, and here it is the trim method. It just added white space. And these are the methods of the string class. Of course there is many other methods, but these, like an example for it, you can find the other methods if you searched for them. There's also another interesting method. It's replace method. Like it replaces the certain letters in the, or certain character in the string to a new character, for example. So there's a lot of other methods. You can also search for them and try them, and you can see how they are affecting the string, or how you can use them for editing the string or doing anything with it. In chapter 5, we will learn about the loops and how we can use them in Java, and what their types, and what is the syntax of them in Java. So first we need to know what is a loop. So a loop is a way to tell the program that I want to repeat a specific statement. So in Java, we have three types of loops. We have the while loop, and we have the for loop. We will start with the while loop. So as you can see, here we have the keyword while, and inside these brackets, we have the loop continuation condition. So this is basically a Boolean statement, and Once it is false, the while loop will stop, and if it's true, it will continue forever, for example. Because if we have here, like for example, true keyword, then it will go forever unless there is a statement that stop it inside it. So we have here also the statement or anything we want to repeat it. So to understand more the while loops in Java, we need to do an exercise. So give a program that promotes the user to enter an answer for a question on the addition of two single digits. So we can do this step by the random function from the math class, or we can just put any two single digits. Using a loop, you can write the program to let the user repeatedly enter a new answer until it is correct. So actually, without even telling me that I will need a loop or use a loop, I can tell that here I will need a loop because it's saying repeatedly, and it means that every time the user enters an answer, it needs to check if it's right or wrong, and this is of course by using if statement. Then it will decide if it will need another another repetition, let's say. um, if it's right, then it will stop. So if it's wrong, it will continue to give the user another chance to submit a new answer. Otherwise, it will stop. So in this specific question, I will use while loop. It will help me and it will make it easier for me. So first we need to create two variables, x and y, okay, that are integers. And then I need to have a random value for them. So I will use the random function. So x is equal to integer math dot random. So here any number will be generated from the random function will be integer, okay, and the limit for the number is going to be to 10. So the random function will not choose any number above 10, okay. So I need to create the same or let's say I will assign y also for the same random generator. Now I will ask the user to enter the answer or the user's answer. So enter the answer, or let's say 4, then plus x. So here I did not put x and y in the quotation marks inside the quotation mark because I don't want them as characters. I want their values to appear for the user. Okay, here I will create integer user answer that is equal to input dot next integer function. Yes. Okay. Now at this point, the program will take the user's answer, and then we will start the while loop. So inside the loop continuation condition, I will say user answer okay. Let me explain. So here the while loop will be true all the time. So this is going to be true all the time, unless, or let's say it will continue going until this condition is false. If the case that the while loop will stop is when the user answer is equal to x plus y, which is the correct answer. So the while loop will stop, and it will stop giving the user opportunities in order to submit their answers. So inside the while loop, we will say, um, I'll say the same, but let's say wrong, for example. Wrong, wrong answer. Try again. Okay, and here I don't need to declare it again. If the while loop stopped, I will print correct. Okay, so this is called the Sentinel controller. So this is one way to do this question. Okay, so as we said, if this condition is true, then the while loop will still go, يعني going. But if it's false, then it will stop. And when it's false is when the user answer is equal to x plus y. Okay, which is the correct answer. Okay, now let's run it. So it's saying 2 plus 1. I will make a wrong answer. 1. Wrong answer. Try again. Okay. 0. Wrong answer. Try again. Let's say 14. Okay, this time يعني I figured out that 2 plus 1 is 3, so 3. Correct. After we've had an example for the while loop and how to use it and how to write it in Java, now we need to know what is the difference between while loop and do while loop. So the while loop, as we saw, it is a loop that we use it, but first this loop will check the condition and then it will do or implement whatever it needs to do, like whatever the statement inside it is written. But for the do while loop, it is going to do the statement and then it will check the condition. And it's kind of the syntax of it, it's kind of different than the while loop. So, while loop, we started by the while keyword, and then we had the condition, and then after that we had the curly braces, and inside them we wrote our statements. While for the do while loop, we will have first the do keyword, and then the curly braces. Inside them, we will have the statement. After these curly braces, we will have the while keyword, and after that is the condition, and then semicolon. So the key point is to check the condition first, use while loop, or to do something and then check the condition, use a do while loop. So it really depends on the question that you are doing it. Now let's know more about the for loop. So this is the syntax of the for loop. We have the for keyword, and then we have this I, or of course here it's not declared, but we need to let's say be aware that if here we did not declare it, then we need to declare it before the for loop. And then we will have here the initial value. So this I actually can be anything. We can also name it counter or anything we want, it's fine. It's just a variable that we will use it inside the for loop. And here we will have its initial value, then semicolon, then again the I or the variable, and then here we're having this operator in order to set the end value. Where should the for loop stop? And then we have here the we are raising it by 1, so the for loop can go again and again and again. Okay, so the nested for loops are like when we say nested for anything, it means the same thing but inside each other. For example, when we say nested for loops means for loop and its statement for this for loop, the statement of it, another for loop with another condition. Okay, so yes. Now let's do this example, the multiplication table for the nested for loops. Okay, now let's start. So remember, our goal is to write a code with nested for loops in order to print for me the multiplication table. Okay, so um, we will start by the first for loop. So of course, here we will not need any scanner or anything because we will not take anything from the user. We will just do the multiplication table using the nested for loops. Now let's start by the first for loop, and I will declare and initialize I inside the condition of the for loop. So integer I equals 1. I want my multiplication table to start with 1. Okay, and then semicolon. Remember our syntax of the for loop, and then I is less or equal to 12. Why 12? Because you remember we used to study the multiplication table ending with 12, and also I used the equal sign also because I want the 12 to be involved in this multiplication table. If not, then I can just remove it. Okay, it will start by 11. I'm sorry, it will stop by 11. It will not the 12 will not be included, but here I want the 12 to be included in my multiplication table. Then semicolon, then I plus plus. Okay, okay, this is the curly braces. And then remember I said that for the nested for loops I will need in the body of the loop, the first loop, another for loop. So for keyword, and then I will use another variable. Let's call it j. So integer j equals also to 1. Okay, semicolon, and then j is less or equal to 12, and then semicolon j plus plus. Okay, and then the body of the second loop. Now inside this body I will just use system.out.println. Okay, now here where the multiplication table will be printed. So first I will do I and then plus. Okay, now I will use this character to be يعني printed. Okay, and then j plus equal character, and then finally plus the result, which is I multiplied by j. Okay, then semicolon. Okay, now this will print for me the multiplication table, but it will not be separated. Like every table will not be separated from the second or the next table. So what I will do, I will go here after I finish this loop. Okay, which is the nested for loop, or let's say the inner for loop. Here I will do what system without that println, and then I could like create a space. Okay, or I can instead do this just to make it more prettier yani. You can do this, or you can just put space, it's fine yani, as you like. And then we hit run. Okay, let's start by the first table. Okay, 1 multiplied by 1 is 1, 1 multiplied by 2 is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, everything is fine. As you can see here is the 12. And then space, or not space, let's say scores, and then the second table, and so on until 12. Okay, so by that we did, or we implemented the multiplication table using what? Using the nested for loops. Okay, Now, in chapter 6, we will know more about the methods in Java and how we can write them or define them. So, first, what is a method? A method can be used to define a reusable code and organize and simplify coding. So, as you can see in this example, we are doing the same thing over and over and over, the same for loop. Just the difference is the initial value and end value in the for loops. So how we can fix that? So as you can see, this is a reusable code. So how we can fix it? By a method. So this is the method public static integer sum. So the name of the function or the method, sorry, is sum. And then we have here the let's say the parameters. So these the parameters of the method, and we will use them in order to put them for the initial value of the for loop and end value of the I of the for loop. Okay, and then it will return the result because the return type is integer, so we will need it to return an integer, which is the result. Okay, and then inside the main we will just print sum from 1 to 10 is plus the here we're calling the method and giving the value for the parameters of it. So this is how we can write a method in Java or define a method. So first, we have the public static modifier. Until now, we will use the public because we still did not get to write any classes or to know how to write them. So later, after we know more about classes, we will use different modifiers for the classes methods in order to test our understanding for these modifiers and how we can use them. Okay, as I said here, the return value type is integer, and then we will have here the method name, and then the parameters of the method, curly braces, and then the body of it or the implementation of the method. So inside these curly braces we will have the body of the method or the implementation of the method. Okay, so we will have a set of statements. So yes, now we will learn more about the methods using different return value types. Now let's define a method in order to print for us the table of multiplication for a specific number. Okay, so we have this main method. Now we will exit from it and we will create here our second method. So we need to start by the modifier public static, and then the return value type. So it's going to be first void. Okay, and then the name of the function, and then its parameters. So it will take only one number, so integer num, and then curly braces, and then the implementation of this function or the body of the method. So first, I'll need for loop. Okay, and integer I equals 1 semicolon, I is less or equal to 12, and then semicolon, and then I plus plus curly braces, and then we will print that system.out.println. Okay, so num plus the multiplication character, then plus I plus the equal character, and then plus the I multiplied by num semicolon. Okay, now that will be printed. So the only thing we need to do in the main is to call the function and give it a value for its parameters. So multitable, let's say I want the multiplication table of 2. Okay. We can also give the user the ability or the choice to choose the number by the scanner class. But until now, I just want to explain or put some examples for the return value types. So let's see. So yes, 2 multiplied by 1 is 2, and so on. The whole table is here. Now, what if I want to use integer? What I need to do? What is going to be different? So for this specific example, it's going to be hard for me to, um, let's say, print that even in the main. It will be kind of, tricky. So what I will do, I will keep the same thing here. The only error that will appear is due to the return keyword. So here, as you can see, it will say this method must return a result of type integer. Okay, why integer? Because here the return value type is integer. If it's double, then it will return what? Double, and so on. But here I'm already printing this one. Okay, I can print in such methods like these. So it's fine, I can print it, but I need to have the return keyword. So what I will do, I will say return and then 0, which means it will not return anything, it will just print. And here I will just call the function. Okay, and then its parameters, let's say this times 3. Okay, let's see what will happen. So yes, everything's fine. So remember, if you choose not the method not to be void, so you need always to provide return, okay, value, and it needs to be its type needs to match what? Needs to match this type. For example, if it's here integer, then the return needs to return 0, 1, any number that is integer. If it's here double, then it will need to return what? Double. If it's here string, it needs to return what? String. In chapter 7, we will start by objects and classes, and also how we can write them in Java or how we can use them. So let's recall the things that we said at the beginning of the video. So object-oriented programming, or OOP, involves programming using objects. An object represents an entity in the real world that can be distinctly identified. For example, a student, a disk, a circle, a button, and even a loan can all be viewed as objects. An object has a unique identity, state, and behavior. So, how these things can be set by the attributes and methods of the object. Okay, now classes, objects of the same type are defined using a common class. For example, let's say that I have three objects: circle, triangle, square. What is what must the class be for them, or what is the common thing between them? For all of them are shapes, so the class is going to be shape. Okay, and its objects is the circle, triangle, and square. A class is a template, blueprint, or contract that defines what an object's data fields and methods will be. Instantiation: an object is an instance of a class. You can create many instances of a class. Creating an instance is referred to as instantiation. Okay? So why do we use classes? For instantiation. So we need to create objects that have a certain attributes and methods in order to represent something from the real world. Okay. Now let's take an example for how to write class in Java with constructors. So the constructor is a method in every class. Okay, and also the getters and setters methods. Now let's practice to write another class than the main. and to have its constructor, getters and setters, which is the methods. And also let's have its attributes, and let's see how we can instantiate an object from this class. So I will choose to write a circle class. Okay, so we will start by the class keyword, and then we will name it circle. Okay, curly braces, and then we will start by the attributes. So the attributes for a circle is the radius, so double radius. And for example, let's say also I want to have another attribute which is the color. So as you can see, I did not initialize radius or color, because I will do that in the constructor. So the constructor for any class should have the same name of the class, so it should be circle, and then its parameters can handle anything. It's fine. But here I will not provide any parameters. Okay, so let's set radius to 2, for example, or let's make it 1, and the color will be what? Will be, for example, white. Okay, so I provided the initialization for the two attributes inside the constructor. I can have even two constructors, or three or four, as much as I want. It's fine. And also, but I need to take care that they are not having the same name and the same parameters. One of them, yani, here, of course, the constructor will have the same name as the class and as any other constructors. Okay, but the parameters are the things that will be different. For example, I will write circle, for example, like this. Then this is an error. It will say that, oh, it's duplicated. But once I type double, for example, radius. Okay, here I will put any radius I want, any value equal to, or let's call it something else. For example, RA. So RA is equal to radius. Okay. Now we need some setters and getters. So public. So for the get radius, it will return the radius, or no, let's say the set radius. It will change for me the value of the radius of any object I will create. So it will be void, and it will take not integer, double RA. Okay, and then it will say radius is equal to what? To RA. So yes, and then we will have the getter. So the getter will return for me the area, get area. Okay, so public um, double get area. Okay, and then nothing in the parameters. I'll not need to pass anything, and then I will declare a new variable which is area, equals to what? Equals to pi, which is 3.14, multiplied by radius squared. Okay, and then what? Return. Remember we said that it's important to provide return statements. So return what? Return area. Okay, now what? Now here I will instantiate our first object. So first I need to identify or declare what is the type of it. So the class is the type. Okay, so circle c1 is equal to new circle. Okay, here I'm calling what? I'm calling the constructor, the first one that doesn't have any parameters. Okay. I will create another one using another C2, using another what? Using the second constructor, and I will make the radius as 2.0. Okay. Now what I will do? Now I will test um, or I will practice the methods, the set radius and get area. So first let's use get area. So system dot out dot print ln. Okay, I will, of course I cannot access the method without the object. يعني c1 dot, so the dot operator will give me the access for this method. So get area will not take anything in its parameters, so it's like that. We will do it again for the second object. Okay. uh Now for example, let's change the c2. Okay, to what? So c2 was 2.0. Now let's make it 5.0, for example. Okay, and then let's see what's area after changing the radius value. Okay, let's check everything. So yes. Okay, so 3.14 for what? For the first one, which is C1. The area of C1 is 3.14. Why? Because the radius is 1. As set it here, is it's 1. So 1 multiplied by 1 is 1, and 1 multiplied by 3.14, 3.14. C2 area, which is its radius is 2, multiplied by 2 is 4, multiplied by 3.14 is 12.56. And yeah, and after changing the value of the radius to 5.0, the value of the area also changed. Now with our last chapter in this video, access modifiers. So you can use the public visibility modifier for classes, methods, and data fields to denote that they can be accessed from any other classes. If no visibility modifier is used, then by default the classes, methods, and data fields are accessible by any class in the same package. The private modifier makes methods and data fields accessible only from within its own class. So we have here this table that will help us in order to understand these modifiers. So first we have the public. So it will give me it will make me able to access from any of these conditions, like for example within class, within package, same package by subclasses, outside package by subclasses. And protected is kind of the same, but we have some also differences that will be discussed in the next slide. And by the default modifier, so in the last example we did, which is for the class circle, we used the default modifier because we did not use any other modifier, like we did not write public, protected, or private. So the default modifier is used there. Okay, so the only access I'm not going to be able to do is outside package by subclasses, while private is going to give me the access only within the class. So within package or same package by subclasses or outside package by subclasses, all of that is not يعني it can't be accessed. So what is the difference between the public and protected modifiers? So the public modifier is accessible from any class in any package. while protected is accessible only from subclasses outside the package and any class within the same package. So the difference here is for the packages. If we are inside the same package, then we will be able to access from any other class or any other subclasses. While we are outside the package, then only the subclasses will have this, let's say, access. They will have the ability to access anything inside the protected class.